What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, YouTube exclusive. Look at Week 17, the final week of the regular season. The 2019 regular season is here. It's the end of it. We're going to look at the gambling lines for the NFL in the last week of the regular season. I'm Will Brinson. We got Ryan Wilson, Sean Wagner, and John Breech. We're here for a little Pick Six party. Remember, you can check us out this is only on YouTube. You can only watch us on YouTube, youtube.com/CBS Sports. Hit the subscribe button, but you can get our Sunday night Week 16 recap, as well as a myriad other fantastic podcasts by going to Apple Podcasts, searching for Pick Six Podcast. Same fantastic logo. Make sure subscribe, rate, and review. Let's dive right in. The first things first, Sunday Night Football, the maximum flex game here. 49ers at the Seahawks, division title on the line. The Seahawks laid an egg against the Cardinals in Week 16, Ryan. But the worst part isn't that they just lost. The worst part is they lost Chris Carson for the year and Dwayne Brown for the year. The Seahawks are in the playoffs, but it might cost them big time. The 49ers 3-point favorites in Seattle on Sunday night, over under 47.5. Where are you headed with this one?
I'd like to take you guys back to a time 24 hours ago where you guys couldn't stop dunking on me about how the 49ers had no chance in Seattle against the Seahawks. I'm pointing at the camera, but I'm pointing at you, John Breech. This is coming your way, brother. Don't act surprised, because look, the 49ers are going to go in there and they're going to railroad the Seahawks team without, as Brinson just pointed out, the running back Carson, without their left tackle Dwayne Brown, and with an offensive coordinator who loves calling running plays. Yes, the 49ers defense isn't as great as it was at the beginning of the season. It is still miles better than what we saw in Seattle today. A team, by the way, that lost to Brett Hundley. That's not something you hear every day, because Brett Hundley doesn't play a lot of football. So, yeah, I love the 49ers. I love them to go in there. They're playing for C.J. Beathard. Kyle Shanahan has them pumped up, ready to go. And I don't know which Seahawks team is going to show up. And by the way, we talk about this every week in terms of the coaching. Pete Carroll loves kicking field goals from 50 yards away and punting on 4th and 2. Kyle Shanahan does not.
Ryan, it is funny you should mention my opinion from 24 hours ago, because if you would have asked me 24 hours ago who I thought was going to win this game, I would have said the Seattle Seahawks by 2 touchdowns, but I would like to make it clear that I no longer feel that way, because the Seahawks don't have any healthy players. I don't even know that they have an actual person who can play running back on their roster right now. We already saw them lose Rashad Penny earlier in the season. Not only did they lose Chris Carson, but CJ Prosise might be out also. Brinson mentioned Dwayne Brown, and you know who else might not be on the field? Let's see. Their best cornerback, their best pass rusher, that's Shaquille Griffin, Jadeveon Clowney, their top safety, all of those guys. There is a chance they will not be playing in this game on Sunday night. Russell Wilson's going to have to play every position. The guy's a magician, but he's not a miracle worker. So as much as I did love the Seahawks in the 24 hours leading up to this game, I have changed my mind, and I like the 49ers to win and cover in Seattle.
Classic Breech flip-flopping after he says it's an automatic win. I mean, this is what Breech just does. Unfortunately, Breech is right. I was like him 24 hours ago saying how the Seahawks, don't bet against Russell Wilson in Seattle. I'm sure Breech had the stat of, since Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll have teamed up there, what their record is against the spread. I'm sure it's pretty good. Unfortunately, even though the 49ers defense has not looked that great, we talked about this on the podcast yesterday, they haven't looked that great for the last 5 or 6 weeks. I just don't know how the Seahawks are going to protect Russell Wilson without their top offensive lineman against the likes of Bosa, that defensive front, which is so menacing. And there was a part of me thinking when Chris Carson went down, I was like, you know what? Maybe this will be a blessing in disguise, because maybe this will force the Seahawks to open things up and let Russell Wilson just throw the ball. No. They gave the ball to Travis Homer 11 times. He got 11 touches. Tyler Lockett had 1 catch. I have no faith in this coaching staff. Kyle Shanahan can coach circles around, I think, the Seahawks coaching staff. So I like the 49ers to cover as well. And I think I like the under, because I think the Seahawks are still going to pound the rock. And we know how much the 49ers also like to run the ball as well.
Yeah, I like the look. It's hard not to like the Niners here. How are you going to take the Seahawks? I am a little worried that I don't like to bet against Russell Wilson at home in prime time when the odds are against him. Everyone is going to be on the 49ers. I would much rather take the under here. I know that the 49ers defense has not been very good the last few weeks. They've given up plenty of points, especially to teams they faced twice. But with no Dwayne Brown, and no Chris Carson. I think Seattle's going to struggle to move the ball. What we saw from Arizona on Sunday was good edge rushers really gave Russell Wilson fits. And if they can't get into position on third down, where if they get a third and long, then Russell has to drop back and create. And Nick Bosa's playing out of his mind right now. Eric Armstead's mad he didn't make the Pro Bowl. They are going to get pressure on Russell Wilson. I love the under in this spot. I think you should get it now. I would anticipate it comes down closer to 45 by the time that game kicks off on Sunday night. So make sure and check out that under. Titans minus 5.5 at the Texans, over under 48. The Texans have already clinched the division, but Bill O'Brien, John Breech, said that he was planning on playing his starters in Week 17. Do you think Bill O'Brien is a liar, or is he not a liar?
Well, Brinson, I think he is a liar because I don't think he's going to play his starters. And the funny thing about Bill O'Brien saying this is that I don't trust Bill O'Brien to win a game when his starters are playing. So my trust level, the trust tree has been burnt to the ground if the Texans backups are playing, because I just don't see how they can win. We saw what Ryan Tannehill has been doing over the past few weeks. The Titans didn't have Derrick Henry on Sunday against the Saints, and it looked like that offense was going to be left for dead. And then Tannehill single-handedly carried that team, made a game out of it. Yes, they lost 38-28, but what the Texans are going to get is they're going to face a completely healthy Derrick Henry. They're going to face a Ryan Tannehill, who's been throwing all over everyone, leads the NFL in yards per attempt. And I'm not even sure the Texans starters will be able to stop that Titans team. I definitely don't think their backups are going to. And I do think their backups are going to be in this game. So I am taking the Titans. I think they're going to cover the 5.5. And you know what? I think it's going to go over, because I think the Titans are going to score in the 30s and the Texans will score probably in the 20s.
Yeah, I also love the Titans in this game. I mean, look, the Texans have absolutely nothing to play for. I know Bill O'Brien said they were probably going to play their starters. I would hope he's going to change his mind, because Deshaun Watson was already limping around out there against Tampa Bay. I don't think it's smart to play him behind a suspect offensive line. It's kind of flown under the radar lately, but Deshaun Watson kind of has been struggling since he dismantled the Patriots about a month ago. 5 interceptions in his last 3 games. He could have had a couple more against Tampa Bay that secondary dropped. And I think, look, the Titans right now have the better quarterback. It sounds insane to say, but we've been saying it for the past couple of weeks. Ryan Tannehill right now is playing better than Deshaun Watson. He's going up against a defense that entered the week 6th worst in DVOA. And I don't think they're going to get gifted 4 interceptions the way Jameis Winston gifted them 4 interceptions in a really close game. So give me the Titans, better quarterback, and they're the ones that have something to play for. The Texans have nothing to play for.
Yeah, I hate to agree with you guys, but I think you're exactly right. The Titans are one of the best teams in the AFC right now, top 6 certainly, and they deserve that 6th spot. It'll make the playoffs more interesting if nothing else. And Sean mentioned that the Titans have the better quarterback. I think that's up for debate. Ryan Tannehill's playing out of his mind, obviously, but they definitely have the best group of wide receivers compared to what the Texans have, and that's saying a whole lot, because we don't know Will Fuller's health. We know Dre Hopkins is a top 3 guy, but A.J. Brown is playing out of his mind. Jonnu Smith is playing out of his mind. Derrick Henry, as Breech pointed out, did not play with a hamstring injury. We don't know if he's going to be 100%. Breech says he is, but Breech isn't a doctor. Even if he isn't 100%, it won't matter, because, again, we talk about this all the time. Mike Vrabel can outcoach Bill O'Brien with only half a mustache. So I'm not worried about that, and I think it's going to be a pretty convincing win, definitely covering the minus 5.5. I'll leave the over-under to Brinson.
Yeah, I would probably lean on the under here too as well, because I think what you're going to see from these teams is Bill O'Brien. Look, he can say he's going to play his starters all he wants. He's a moron if he plays his starters. I mean, he's probably locked into that number 4 seed. He won't know for certain, I guess, because I don't think the Chiefs are playing until, I think they're playing at the same time, so like he can't know for certain, but you can do some scoreboard watching. Even if you start Deshaun Watson, he better be out of there at halftime if you think the Chiefs are going to beat the Chargers, and they probably should. So given all that, it would be silly to play your starters. You're not going to get a bye, so use this as a bye instead, man. It's very obvious and easy. And if that's the case, if he does end up not playing his starters, and we'll find out more as the week goes along, then I think you'll want to take the Titans, and I would expect that this line would climb from 5 closer to 7, maybe up a little bit higher, because it could potentially be second string guys going up against Tennessee, who will have Derrick Henry back. They will be playing. They win, and they are in the playoffs. You play the motivation factor here in week 17, excuse me. It's a no-brainer. You play the Titans anything less than a touchdown, and I would lean towards the under because I wouldn't expect the Texans to get 20 points, and I think the Titans will be more than satisfied with running the ball a bunch, melting the clock, and getting out of there like 17-10, 24-10, something like that. I would go ahead and play the Titans in the under if you like them here. Another game where you're probably going to play the under because Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph are involved. The Steelers are at the Ravens. We do not expect the Baltimore Ravens to play their starters, and yet, Sean, the Ravens are -2.5. That's probably because of Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph. The over-under 40.5. That's an old-school Steelers-Ravens number. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think the under is the play here. But if you're looking at these two teams, I don't think it's crazy to take the Ravens. Because even though it's probably going to be RG3 out there, the Ravens still might have the better quarterback in this game. If you're looking at Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph, it's funny. Mike Tomlin, when he went to Duck Hodges a couple weeks ago and benching Mason Rudolph, his reason was, quote, Duck doesn't kill us. Well, Duck's been killing them lately with all of his interceptions. So I still think the Ravens have the quarterback advantage. The sitting of the starters does worry me. We saw Mark Ingram hobble off with an injury. He probably won't play. I think Earl Thomas said he did not expect to play. Mark Andrews hobbled off. He probably won't play. But I think this weekend kind of showed us that the Steelers have kind of been riding their luck a little bit. I mean, you lose to Adam Gase and the Jets. That says a lot. So I like the Ravens, but I love the under in this game. Two really good defenses and two quarterbacks that frankly aren't any good.
I hate trying to predict a game when I don't know who's going to be on the field, but it does feel like that the Ravens starters aren't going to play, as Brinson mentioned. So what this boils down to is, do I think the Steelers starters can beat the Ravens backups? And, this is probably a slap in the face of the Steelers, but I don't think that question is actually that easy to answer. As Sean said, even if RG3's out there, the Ravens arguably have the better quarterback situation, probably much better quarterback situation. But the one thing I will say about the Steelers is that when these two teams played earlier this year, the Steelers defense was totally zoned in. They had a pretty easy time dealing with the Ravens offense. They did a really good job of slowing it down, almost stopping it. So you take Lamar Jackson out of the equation, you throw in RG3, and I think that the Steelers defense is going to somehow will this team to victory. We might see the Duck Mason combo throw 7 interceptions, lose 3 fumbles, but I think the Steelers defense is going to do enough in this game to win it straight up, pull that upset.
I'm sort of curious why John would still be on the Steelers bandwagon. I know why, because he has the Titans winning, so the Steelers are still going to miss the playoffs. I'm on to you, John. I'm not buying it. I saw you gave an F this week in your grades. You, sir, are a very angry, bitter Bengals fan. Look, here's the thing. Mason Rudolph has a shoulder injury, so he probably ain't playing. He left the locker room and his arm was in a sling. It was his left arm. He's right-handed. I don't really think it matters. Duck Hodges can't throw the ball apparently now more than 30 yards down the field. So as long as you have Justin Tucker and he can kick 1 field goal, that's the one starter who's going to play, they could win 3-0 very easily. They gave up 16 points to a terrible Jets team, and they had no chance of winning that football game. They had a couple of Hail Marys at the end that came up about 40 yards short of the end zone, so that should tell you where their offense is. They just can't do anything offensively because apparently you need a quarterback in today's NFL to win football games. So there's no question that RG3 is 10, 20, 4 billion times better than Duck and/or Mason Rudolph. I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Tomlin gives some consideration of just throwing Paxton Lynch out there. He's on the team. You probably didn't know that. But this is the end of the run for the Steelers. They're going to go 8-8 probably. And that's a Super Bowl season if you look at that roster. That's a practice squad offensive team out there. They've won 8 football games. That's a huge accomplishment. Almost as good as John's Bengals winning 1 football game and almost beating the Dolphins to get Joe Burrow.
I don't think I'd mess with this game. I think I'd just let this thing be. I don't think there's a win to be had on this particular spread. Like, do you really want to lay points with RG3 in a game where John Harbaugh knows that it doesn't matter? I mean, you saw, and it was kind of crazy too, against the Browns in Cleveland on Sunday, Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram, and Mark Andrews, the 3 best offensive players for the skill players for the Ravens, all got hurt on the same drive. And I was like, well, that'll be the end of them. And they kept going back out there. Why were you putting them back out there? What did you need to achieve? You had home field advantage locked up. Stop letting them get hurt. You have the bye. What are you doing, John Harbaugh? So I don't know if I want to mess with John Harbaugh's psyche. I think that Vegas is a little worried too after seeing that. Like he might put Lamar out there for just a half just to keep the momentum going. So I would hold off on messing around with this game. The under is probably a good bet, but who knows? Maybe RG3 goes out and they run the read option. He puts up 45 points and humiliates Mike Tomlin on the way out of town. Speaking of humiliation, actually, you know what? You didn't know the Giants were humiliated. Neither were the Eagles. Eagles -5 at the Giants. This is a win, and you are in game for the Philadelphia Eagles, who took down the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday. Over under 46.5. Can Carson Wentz do it again? This time against Daniel Jones in the old MetLife Stadium, Ryan?
I mean, this on paper looks like a trap game, but under no circumstances should anyone ever lose to Pat Shurmur and Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones isn't really the issue. Pat Shurmur's the issue. And after this huge victory at home against the Cowboys, who didn't really show up, I feel like the Eagles are going to dominate the Giants. Something to consider, and I know you tweeted this, Brinson, on Sunday afternoon. The Giants had just fallen over and lost to the Redskins. They would now have the number 2 pick, and they would have Chase Young. They now have the number 4 pick, and they're just going to get some random offensive lineman to sort of protect Daniel Jones for the next few years. So it doesn't matter if they lose this game because they're not going to move up any higher. There are too many other terrible teams in front of them, the Redskins and the Lions. So this is just sort of a game for them. This is going to be Pat Shurmur's swan song. A few weeks ago was Eli Manning's. I think the Eagles are going to roll. I think they're going to cover, and I think they're going to the playoffs.
Ryan, you know what? The NFC East has been so bad this season that the Eagles losing would be the perfect cherry on top of the trash Sunday that this division has been. And you know what the Eagles' biggest weakness is? It's their secondary. And yes, they were okay against the Cowboys, but that's because Dak Prescott was trying to throw with one arm and half a shoulder. That's hard to do. But you look at what Daniel Jones just did against the Redskins. He threw for over 350 yards. He threw for 5 touchdowns. Only 4 rookies since 1950 had thrown 5 touchdown passes in a game. So there is no reason to think Daniel Jones, he can ignore Pat Shurmur. He can go out there and do this on his own. Saquon Barkley got on a roll, put up 279 scrimmage yards against the Redskins. We haven't seen any running back do that, any NFL player do that in 3 years. So the Giants are clicking on all cylinders at completely the wrong time, yes, but it does make it feel like they at least have a shot at pulling off the upset here. The last time these two teams played, that was in Philly on a Monday night, a game that Eagles should have steamrolled the Giants. They only won 23-17. So I don't think I have the guts to pick the Giants right now after going through that whole diatribe. But I think the Eagles are going to win, but I think the Giants are going to cover.
I do have the guts to take the Giants. I said this on the podcast last week. It was going to be the most fitting thing is for the Eagles to win this game and everyone to act like they won the NFC East. And then they're going to go on the road to New York against Saquon Barkley, who got hot at the right time. Daniel Jones, who played the best game of his career, he's going to go against a terrible secondary, and I think he's going to light them up. And I think that the Eagles are going to lose this game. We saw Zach Ertz. I mean, the entire game plan against the Cowboys was throw to the running backs, throw to the tight ends. You would hope the Giants watch that and realize we just got to take away the tight ends. And then you look at Zach Ertz, got banged up in that game, looked like he took a really hard shot to the ribs. He did not look healthy for the second half. Who knows how he'll be feeling a week from now? I'm guessing not great. I mean, the main reason is what Breech said. It's not really rooted in logic. It's just the NFC East is such a crap show that it just feels like the perfect way for it to end is for the Eagles to blow this. So I love the Giants in this game, especially to cover because it's 5.5 at home. I don't know if the Eagles are good enough to be favored by 5.5 on the road against anyone.
Okay. Thought that was Ryan coming up next. It was not. I dropped the ball there. Sorry. I don't know what I was doing. I was drifting off into a world of NyQuil. Anyway, I like the Giants too. 5 is too many points. The Eagles should be 3-point favorites here. They're going on the road. Like Sean said, there's a ton of pressure. I expect the Eagles to make everybody sweat it out. I think the Giants will keep it close, but I do think eventually the Eagles will win. This is a terrible Giants secondary. Dwayne Haskins looked like, I don't know, whatever great Joe Theismann, I don't know, some better quarterback than the Redskins thought that they had against he was winging all over the place until he got hurt. I think the Eagles will put up plenty of points. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a shootout. These two teams can both score and both have bad secondaries. And you're right, Saquon Barkley, thanks for nothing, pal. Thanks for nothing. You ruined everyone's fantasy seasons by showing up in week 15 and 16. We hate you. Sorry. Redskins and Cowboys. The Cowboys, by the way, perfect metaphor for the Cowboys season, Breech. Their plane got stuck on the runway trying to leave Philly, and they may have to leave some passengers behind. Paging passenger Garrett. Passenger Garrett to the front of the plane, please. Redskins are at the Cowboys. Cowboys -11, over under 46.5. Dare you take the Cowboys to stomp the Redskins here, John?
Well, it's a good thing Garrett is not flying the plane home, because if he flew the plane like he's been coaching this season, it wouldn't make it back to Dallas. Look, you know what? We can bash the Cowboys all we want, and we will nonstop this entire offseason. But if the Cowboys are good at one thing, it is beating bad teams. The Washington Redskins are a bad team. This is where you get to the point in the season when the Cowboys play a team where they are clearly the better team. If they have more talent than the other team, it is just, they're so much better that not even Jason Garrett can botch what's going on out on the field. And that's kind of what the Cowboys have done to mediocre competition this year. So I actually think the Cowboys are going to win this game. I think the Cowboys are going to cover in this game. It's a huge point spread there at 11 points. And it's weird because if the Cowboys win and the Eagles lose, all of a sudden the Cowboys backdoor their ways into the playoffs at 8-8, which would be a total classic Jason Garrett move. Get into 8-8, win 2 playoff games, get to the NFC title game, get a lifetime contract extension. Everyone in Dallas cries for years. That is my entire prediction.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are going to win this game. I don't think they're going to cover, though. I think 11.5 points is too much. And I know Breech is right. They do beat bad teams in big ways. We've seen this all season. But Dak's shoulder really concerns me because he did not look right against the Eagles, against, as we mentioned, a really bad secondary. Missed a couple deep balls. Did not look like he was getting as much mustard on his downfield throws as he normally gets. I didn't think Amari Cooper, frankly, looked that healthy or looked that great out there. He was rotating in and out. With Dak's shoulder not being right, and if he's not taking reps in practice, I don't know if I trust him to cover that giant of a spread. And let's not forget, the Redskins have actually given some teams some games. Back in week 1, I mean, they hung with the Eagles, gave them a little bit of a first half scare. They went to Minnesota, covered a big spread there. So I think they're going to cover regardless if it's Keenum or Haskins. Haskins, who, by the way, looked great and continues to develop and actually showing signs of promise. And I think the Redskins can feel comfortably happy going to the next season, thinking maybe they found their franchise guy. So I like the Redskins to hang around, maybe backdoor their way through the cover. And I probably like the under because this Cowboys offense isn't right. They love jamming the ball up the middle with Zeke Elliott, even when it's not effective. So give me the under in a little bit of a tight game, a little bit of a scare, but I think the Cowboys pull it out.
Yeah, you guys are right. The Cowboys are really good against terrible teams. They lost to the Bears and to the Jets. Look, man, the Redskins are going there, and they're going to crush the Cowboys. Case Keenum, if he plays, that's even better. He's not afraid to wing the ball around the yard. We know he can do that. Sean mentioned Dwayne Haskins is playing really well, and the Cowboys have absolutely nothing to play for. We talked about Jason Garrett being the pilot. If he were the pilot wearing a headset, does he even talk to anyone, or does he just sit there in the cockpit and clap? We don't know. So that's what he's going to be doing on the sidelines, not talking to anyone. He's going to be clapping. Dak Prescott can't throw the ball. Amari Cooper can't run. Who's going to make plays? Jason Witten, he was dropping passes all over the field at the link on Sunday. I think that the Redskins have a real chance to go in there and win this football game, save Bill Callahan's job, sign him to a 15-year deal, and just run the ball for the next 15 years on their way to NFC East title after NFC East title. I don't think that'll happen, but I do think they have a real chance to win this game. So I'm going with the Redskins because I want my Eagles and Debo's to win the old division, go to the playoffs.
See, look, this would not be right if it was just Eagles lose and Cowboys get in. No. This division is too terrible, too bad, too humiliating, too embarrassing. We have to have both teams lose. The Eagles go to the Giants and they lose. And at the same time, like, imagine that, because those games go off at 4 or 5. Imagine watching those games happen where both teams are losing to the inferior competition within their division, begging someone else to take the division away. Don't sleep on the fact, there's, in all seriousness, if you want to bet on the Redskins, it's already moving down to 10.5. Looks like it'll get to 10. I would anticipate it closes under double digits. If the Eagles get up big on the Giants, which is entirely possible because the Giants are terrible, the Cowboys will be seeing that score. And those players with that leadership, They will check the geek out. They will be gone. They will not mess around. They will not deal with anything. Michael Bennett's going to walk off the field. Dak's going to be like, nah, I got a contract. Get me out of here. He's going to be like the play 60 kid walking off the field. And the Redskins will cover. The Redskins might even win this game, even if the division's in the balance. I would actually take the over. I think it's a little low here. We saw Washington get into a shootout. They can score some points. Terry McLaurin playing really well. Steven Sims, man, that guy can play. Had him in a little DFS action this week too. So I like the over in that spot. I would take the Redskins and the Eagles. Maybe a little parlay on the dogs there. The NFC Craptastic parlay. Make sure and check out our podcast. We'll be recapping everything from week 16. That'll be up soon. Then we'll have Monday Night Preview for Vikings and Packers. All kinds of content throughout Christmas week, including a great mailbag. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Hit that YouTube button to subscribe. Talk to you guys next week.